AVA has a long history, and a history can sometimes be a burden for an institution. The AVA isn't, in my mind, burdened by its history. It's actually energized by it. I suppose partly to do with the fact that it's not an institution that collects. It's merely a platform that showcases a mixture of members and young artists wanting to have either their first solo show or group exhibition. And it's always remained consistent in that through its highs and lows of administrative and economic problems. And I think that's the joy of it. It's always been an exciting venue to see young talent, particularly, trying to find their place in the world. The art world in Cape Town has a unique kind of setup, and partly has to do with split between public and private institutions. When I say public, I mainly refer to museums and similar type of spaces. We have a far more robust private market, so retail galleries, private museums, but strangely for a fairly vibrant art scene or art world, it has a few things missing. We don't really have project spaces. They're very intermittent. I was in Vienna not long ago. They have over 50 project spaces, which is a much bigger and more resourced art scene. But you know, the reason I mention this sort of asymmetry is the fact that it's hard as a young artist to find spaces to exhibit. You know, there's great danger in going from art school straight into a retail gallery because, you know, if you don't sell, you get shown the door. And, you know, as a young artist, you need to figure your practice out. So a place like the AVA, I think traditionally and historically has offered that. It's not its sole function, it's not a project space, but it's a space that allows particularly young or emerging artists to kind of broker engagement with the public, which is really important, because I think, you know, if you do it always on your own terms, like DIY, you know, set it up in a rental space, it doesn't have a frame. And I think the AVA offers the frame. And by frame, I mean it's like an accumulated history. And it is a space that I think one of the few spaces that has a fairly impartial signature. There's not that. It's not loaded with bias, or it's only commercial artists that show here. And I think that's a great virtue of the space. I suppose, you know, one could say the AVA in its name, if one pronounced, because the AVA is an acronym, it's the Association of Visual Arts. But if you look at what the word association means, it is an association of artists for artists. And I think that's a very important attribute in a city where the galleries announce the names of the owners or some kind of optimistic vision of what they are, or the big private museums really are not focused on particularly things that move and are required by young artists. And that's not to blame them for anything. They have their own mandates and strategic vision. But I think, you know, that idea of the AVA being a home for many is super important. When artists exhibit here, their work is for sale. And, you know, there's an artist statement and a list of works with prices. But somehow the selling motive isn't the key imperative. If I think of the artists, the fact that they showed here was more important in what it enabled for their career going forward than the fact they either had a sellout or no sales at all. And I think that's important because it's cruel outside, especially when you get into a commercial space, because there the primary motive is to find a buying public. And there's nothing wrong with that. That transactional economy is very important, and it's a part of the reason Cape Town is so vibrant. But the AVA has managed to kind of broker a middle ground